Imagine if you have your vision as the car with the right team. Imagine how quick that vision will come into the footsteps. Something that was taking 5 years takes 3 months.
This morning is all about leadership and influence.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to it. It is officially Wednesday morning, and of course, on a Wednesday we have some more intricate conversations and some deeper conversations as relates to the country and what's happening around South Africa particularly. And of course, today will be no different. But before we introduce our guest, of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Varrie. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. How are you doing, Xavier?
Nice.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, thank you for joining us. I think today we're going to really delve into a lekker conversation, robust, and just like Hein was saying, a frank conversation. So, let's delve into it, man.
Let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce our guest early. We don't have a lot of time with him, so I want us to get straight into the conversation. I know oftentimes there's always these big introductions and all of that, but when people are watching at home, they want to get to the meat. They want to get to the substance of the conversation. So, ladies and gentlemen, of course, from the church space into the politics space, into all different spaces in and around South Africa. And Larry, you probably be able to delve a little bit deeper into, or maybe we don't even have to delve into it. Ladies and gentlemen, please help us welcome on to the set this morning, Mr. Hein April. Thank you. Thank you for coming, sir.
Yeah. Thank you and good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for hosting me on your platform this morning. I've been following your platform and I've been seeing how you engage in the different topics that is topical, but not just that. You are setting the pace for the conversations that people are scared to have. And I'm glad that you have taken the initiative to take this space and occupy this space, because without your voices being heard, it leaves a hole and a gap, and you know that history has no blank pages. So thank you for this, and thank you to your listeners for tuning in. I'm glad to be here and having a robust, a frank and honest conversation with you guys.
Of course. Before we get into the conversation, maybe just give us a little bit of a background as to where you come from, especially personally and professionally, and how you find yourself in the position that you are in today.
Okay, I am born in a small town called Welkom in the Free State. I moved to Johannesburg to come and study, and then I'm born in a house where my father was a politician. I grew up politically and in the church, so it's quite someone said it this morning at the prayer meeting that I'm like a diamond that has got different varieties as the rays of sun shines on different parts of it. So I was a businessman, and then I delved into politics. I became a member of parliament. I've studied and I've got a master's in public administration. I served Parliament for 5 years on the portfolio committees of small business development as well as tourism, and also delegated onto the DTIC. I am currently an activist, but I'm involved in Woordenlewe Church, which is my church home where I serve. Got various projects that I'm working on, and I'm serving on various boards. So that's me in a nutshell.
You lived in both worlds, Parliament, in church, which is the two necessary institutions when it comes to specifically brown people. And you would know that we specifically engage brown issues on this particular show. And yourself being a brown person, I know you've always also shared with me whenever you post about wearing your Khoisan attire, you're proud in who you are. But just to understand, because what we've also spoken about the last time is the role of the church, because you grew up in the church, you have a strong history, you are mature even in that space as well, is how do we rebuild a church that speaks truth to power, understanding that, and not one that blesses the status quo, that just accepts how things are and just carries on with the normal. How do we move away from a silent church to a proactive church that deals with issues, even the Khoisan issue? How do we use the pulpit as a platform to change the narrative in our communities, to make sure that the disposition of the brown community changes? Because I don't know if you will agree even that the church is arguably, not even arguably, the most influential institution in our communities. But is it used as, for the influence that it has to change and transform the community for the better?
Thank you for that question. Well, when I speak to it off the cuff, you must understand that I'm not just growing up in the church, but I'm also an ordained pastor. My personal opinion has always been that the church don't just set the narrative with regards to the spiritual base, but I think the church has lost its impact and its meaning, because the old church, what government does now, in terms of social development and all of that, was the role of the church. The church was the main driver of how society runs, social development, look after the poor. The poor will always be amongst us, Jesus said. But the church has become so confined that the church is inward looking only to what is happening in my congregation, and how can I get more people to come to my church, and how can I raise the number of satellite or other churches that I've got under me, which has in the essence undermined what the church is intended to do. However, I will never blast the church. I will never come for the church guns blazing, because I believe it's the only credible institution that we still have left. If you look at what Mkwanazi says about the judiciary, the police, government, and we can see what's happening in society, it only leaves for me the church as the voice to speak truth to power. And speaking truth to power means that the church shouldn't become so desperate for resources from politicians and people in power and people in business that they leave the message for the benefit of the financial gain that comes with being acquainted to people that has got access to resources. Absolutely. You see, and the challenge that we've got with colored people is, if you look at where we are, brain mense as arm bro. And hoekom is ons arm is because we are not taught anything other than ons moet net bid. There is an economic aspect that the church should address that the church is not addressing. If I ask you today, how many churches have got empowerment programs that is driven through the church? How many churches have got programs that we can tap in and empower our people to become economically active? And a very few of our churches are doing that. It's no good to come to church every Sunday morning and ons skree hallelujah and mense heil, and is dieselfde mense wat uitkom elke Sondag and we fall under the power, but we go back to the same to the same hungriness, and we applaud people who does wrong because they're driving nice cars. That cannot happen, and the church should really come to a place where we address that.
Is it possible for the church to be politically active without being politically compromised?
Wow, that's a deep one. Is it possible to be politically active without being compromised? The dynamic of the church is one so that in your congregation, there is people from different political parties. So when you become political, in a sense, you are going to alienate some while you will win the others. And you will not be able to be that independent, a neutral force that speaks truth. Because remember, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And if the aspect of truth has to be compromised, then the church is not effective anymore. So you have to be very careful on how you tread. For instance, I've been in politics for the last 20 years, and I have never, ever gone onto the stage or onto the pulpit wearing my political regalia, because I understand that there's two things at play here. Number one is the system. The system is government. The system is where we make laws. And that system is what controls what happens here, in and around us. Politics will be part of the church whether you like it or not. But when the church can ascertain itself that it has a kingdom mandate. Now you must remember, systems come under the kingdom. The kingdom is above all the systems. So if we are going to preach the kingdom and not the system, then we are going to be effective as the church.
Agreed. I agree 100% with what you just said. And I do believe that is a mechanism that the church can use. Like for example, I'm going to speak on behalf of my own church. We do have evening classes where financial literacy is part of those classes, where family literacy is part of those classes, marriage, counseling, all those elements, because those are the bread and butter issues that are on the ground. Those are the issues that lead to what we saw in Rege Park not so long ago. Those are the issues to what we see that leads to what we see in Westbury. Those are the things, the broken family, the absent father, the financial challenges in the house. And so if you don't address it on the grassroots level like that, then at the end of the day, we can still, as you said earlier, you can still element of, okay, right, after this, we go home to an empty bread bin. After this, we go home, daddy and mom is divorced. After this, we go home, this is the situation on the ground. So it's again, as you were saying earlier, which I concur with, is that there is a responsibility on the part of the church, right? But again, and I want to say this publicly, I know Larry made some strong statements last week as it relates to the church. And again, there are churches that are doing the right thing. And I said, we did mention it on the show last. There are churches that are doing the right thing. It's not everyone that's just kind of waiting for Jesus to
Pastor,
come.
I agree with you. There are churches like your own church, which I commend for doing the right things. There are many of our churches, there are mega churches that is doing the right thing. But in terms of empowering the majority of our smaller churches that may say they don't have the infrastructure or lack the willingness to get involved in programs that can advance our people, then the church is lacking. And when we're speaking about a church, we're not speaking about a congregation. We are speaking about the body of Christ at large. And when we are speaking about the body of Christ at large, I can tell you now, I know of people that just decide they are tired of their pastor, they are going to start their own thing, they go around to everybody that they know, they talk nonsense about the pastor, and they start a thing in the garage. And then that thing in the garage has got no structure, and that thing is a Sunday morning thing, and it's about give me your offerings, and it's over and done. There's churches that don't have that. That is why it's important that each one who stands in the ministry, exactly. You shouldn't start a church because you want to prove a point to someone, or start a political party because you want to prove a point, or you want to make money out of it. You must be very clear about, are you mandated by God when it comes to church? I am an advocate for church, but I can tell you the church is not taking up and occupying the space that it needs to occupy in society and in politics. So Larry, back to your question. The church has got a voice. The church has to raise that voice. But when we have entered election season, you're going to see how many political parties is going to visit churches. And you are going to see how the churches are gullible to have these people, because people have got titles and people have got access to power and to resources. We must be careful what we allow from the pulpit to be brought to our people. Very, very important.
Do you think the church has a role to play in, I don't want to use Reger Park now, because I think it's still a sensitive issue.
I think that one is sensitive,
but
yeah.
I want to ask, this is an issue that we do experience on a daily basis in brown communities. Maybe not all of them every day, but it happens in our communities on a daily basis. And I want to know from your perspective also, what role is the church playing or not playing, in dealing with issues like that? Is the church preventing issues from happening, this particular incidents where people are being gunned down? Or is it, are they just coming to funerals and speaking on this can't happen? What is the measures the churches should be putting in place, or yourself as a church leader now, that you're putting in place, that you are actively doing to make sure these issues don't happen in our communities? A preventative measure rather than going to the incident and crying with the family and saying, hey, I'm sorry, your light is doored, or whatever the case is. What are we doing to prevent it from happening?
In Reger Park in particular, I can tell you that it is not a once-off occurrence. It's not the first time that you found a mass shooting. Not in the scale that we've seen it now, but we've seen it over and over again. We've just never seen young guys shooting innocent mothers in the street, women, children. We've never seen that. This is outrageous. But there's been an initiative that has been taken by the church to initiate peace talks amongst our teenagers who have got guns in their hands. And we don't know who drives them, but we know that there are extra forces, external forces driving them towards these things. So the initiative that was taken by the church and the collective church in the Reger Park area to initiate this peace talks was something that I felt was absolutely great. One young man writes on social media, I think it's the day before yesterday, and he says, I went to the peace talks. I listened to what they said. I just wondered to myself, how long will the peace last before the first bullet flies again? And it's a reality that happens, that even if the church brings these young people, these youngsters, the gangsters to the table, and they commit to peace, the church can do so much. But there's also an individual that has to make a choice. Like you decide whether you want to be saved. You decide whether you want to serve God. You decide whether you want to be a gangster. You decide whether you want to be in politics. So there's a personal decision that one must take. But the voice that needs to rise in our communities is the voice of the fathers. The voice of a father that seeks to mentor, that seeks to love these boys beyond the point where they feel that they have been left behind by their dads and by society, and everyone is judging them. There's the saying that has been going on for the last year. I've been hearing my children say, we look, we don't judge. And I've been wondering, sometimes you look and you say you don't judge, but in your mind you are judging, even if you don't say it. And that's a problem. Sometimes we need to live in a way that I'm able to say to you, what you're doing is wrong. And if you don't change what you're doing, and be honest with you to say to you, you are going to go to jail or you are going to lose your life. And if you lose your life, who's going to look after your little sister because your father is already not there? We're expecting from you to get into this program and that program that we've got in order to empower you to become a better individual yourself. Our church has taken an initiative to say that we cannot sit around and wait for government or for anyone else to help us to equip our young people. So we have started entrepreneurship programs that we fund through the business people that's in our church. Start up small businesses. That creates income for those households. And then stability comes. Because I can tell you now, without having stable finances coming into the home, you stand the risk of leaving that young man with no option but to go and sell drugs.
I hear you. I have a question for you from a spiritual perspective, right? You're familiar with both worlds.
Right.
What's happening in the spiritual realm? I like to make this analogy when I'm preaching, and you're wearing glasses today. My analogy is if you could put on glasses, and you could see spiritually what's happening. Like you see angels flying around, you see demons flying around, you see in the realm, like in reality, like now you put those things on and you can see, okay, what's happening in the spiritual realm between what's going on in South Africa, what's happening spiritually between churches or people of Christ, let me put it like that, and people of the world.
1999, I arrived in the corridors of power, which is the National Assembly. And the first feeling that I've got is I'm overwhelmed by a presence that I'm unfamiliar with. And I can tell you now, I kid you not, in the spiritual world, there is a serious fight that's happening, a genuine fight. And I can invite you guys, let's go to the seat of Parliament in Cape Town or into any of the legislatures here in Gauteng. And you will sense that there is a different power that is at play. We must take power, spiritual power, control of the atmosphere. Remember, the Bible says that our warfare is not against flesh and blood, but it's against powers and principalities and what? Rulers. You can feel that thing, and it is happening. So if I put on my spiritual glasses, I am not oblivious to the fact that there are hexes, there are warlords, there are sangomas, there are all of those things that we need to acknowledge, dismantle in the spirit. And if you don't do that, you leave an absolute void, because you can give spiritual food, but if you don't understand who and what you're fighting against, you are fighting a losing battle.
When you arrived in Parliament, because you've been part of the ANC for many years as well, has the ANC ever taken the brown community serious?
You should know that I don't speak on behalf of the African National Congress right now. But the fact that the ANC did deploy me into Parliament was a clear sign for me that they acknowledge our existence, they acknowledge that we have a role to play, they acknowledge that we've got a voice that needs to be heard. However, I will not be shy away from the fact that a lot more could have been done, should have been done, and should still be done. Because if you look at the composition of what our public representatives look like, as onze mense nie hulle self sien nie, in leadership and business, hoe dink jy, wat moet hulle doen? They are left without a choice but to say, I want to be seen, represented. And I think there's a lot more that the African National Congress could do in that regard.
The question more specifically, and like you said, you're not speaking on behalf of the ANC, you're speaking as a politician, as someone that is involved in politics, and you're a brown person, right? And you know which political party you join and you you support and so forth. But the issue is now, have you seen, as Hein April, have you seen any real transformative change? Did they ever take the colored community, and colored in inverted commas, or the Khoisan people serious? As an individual, as someone that is part of our community, that knows the pain that we go through, did you ever see that the ANC stood up and did something that is, that they've showed any form of real empowerment towards the brown community?
If we are going to narrow empowerment down to financial gain,
Any form of empowerment.
okay. If we are going to narrow it down to financial gain, empowerment would mean, do you have a house? Do you have a car? Do you have the means of production and so forth? The ANC, after it came into power, had a lot of work to do in terms of changing the trajectory of the economy, which still remains 10% for the majority and 90% in the hands of the minority. That transition is taking place so slow that you cannot really point out where is the masses of our people benefited. But if you look at a small town called Katu, if you look at Katu and you look at Sandton, do you know that people in Katu earns more per capita than the people that lives in Sandton? Which is telling you, and Katu is, by the way, majority colored people, brain mense bly daar. But let's take it even deeper than that. There is some pockets of excellence that we will find in the colored community. Die brain mense wat ek kan uitwys, wat ek sê, this one is a millionaire or a billionaire because of the policies that was created to give them access. Right now, the very same people is anti the ANC, anti the government. And there's a lot of mistakes that the government is making, but I am not here to speak for the government or the ANC. But let's take, for instance, how did Gayton become a millionaire or a billionaire? How?
Yeah, I don't.
No. I want to take you must remember, you are a man that shoots straight, so I'm shooting you. I'm asking straight to bring you to a point where we must recognize that there are people that are empowered. But we are not enough. It doesn't help that we've got 3 people that's empowered, and the majority of us
We have 7 millionaires.
Yes.
That's your
Here's the issue. Yeah. Here's the issue, though, and the reason why I don't want to engage on a Gayton topic is because of, I don't know where he got his money. I don't know where, all
I
of
know
those
that he's a businessman and he got his money through business,
Okay.
and he's been empowered by doing business.
Okay, but my issue now is, and when we speak about empowerment, and we talk about, when we talk about empowerment, what do we mean? We talk about houses, maybe jobs or schools, whatever the case may be. Now, part of the issue that we raised here on the platform was the Economic Employment Equity Act, or Employment Equity Act, the EEA, right? And we speak about, and the issue I raised was there's houses that are being built. Let's take Eden Park, for example. I grew up in Eden Park. I know the issues of Eden Park. It's a predominantly, or was a predominantly brown community, right? So people there wait for houses. They don't have houses. So an act in Parliament is created that says, right, a particular group of people in South Africa must be preferred or prioritized when it comes to that. So now, in Eden Park, they build 1,000 houses. There's more than 10,000 people that are waiting for a house. And let's say not even 50 of those people get a house. People are imported to those areas that don't live there, and they get the houses. And I can make the same example with the SAPS, for an example, where people are now employed in Eden Park that are not from Eden Park, but because the employment equity says 80% or 79% of the employment must go to black Africans, 9% colored, and whatever the ratios are. The issue I'm putting now, this is something that is drafted in Parliament. How are brown people like yourself, advocating and saying, no, this is not right because it has an adverse impact on my people where I live and the people that, that look like me and speak like me and suffer the same pain that I suffer. How are we dealing with an issue like that as a member of Parliament or someone that serves in Parliament or any future person that goes into Parliament? How do we deal with it? Does an MP have any form of power when he goes to Parliament? Can he change anything when he gets there?
There is 2 ways to answer this. One is that we must be clear that we don't want to identify ourselves outside of the majority, because when the old apartheid system identified us, they identified all of us subhuman, sub-white. You are, now we are saying you're not white enough, black enough. I know that argument. The point that I want to raise is, when we were brought into these communities, we were brought into these communities strategically to divide us and bring separate identities to us. We have, over years, 300 years, bought into the narrative that when your skin is lighter than mine, or your eyes is lighter than mine, or your hair is straighter than mine, you must be better than me, which is a very wrong apartheid narrative, one that we should not continue to perpetuate. However, that being said, it is sickening to see that we have a police station in an area where people majority speak Xhosa, and you bring all of the staff speaking Afrikaans. It cannot be like that. How will those people that speaks Afrikaans, the police officers, be able to interpret what the majority of the community, who is a Xhosa community, be able to? So I'm swapping it around, because what truly is happening is, in Eden Park, majority of the staff of the SAPS that is there right now is not from Eden Park. They don't have to be from Eden Park. They are South Africans. But can they relate with the community? Are they relatable to understand the issues of the community? And can they integrate with the community? That is where the problem lies with me. I've raised this many times. And you're asking, is there something that members of parliament can do? Yes, there's absolutely something that members of parliament can do. You look at the activism of Darlene. She's doing something. She's like a lone voice, but she's trying to do something. Will she win? No, not alone. She's going to need all of us together from different angles in order for this thing that she's fighting for to make it work. What I like about Darlene is that even as a member of parliament, we had constant communication with regards to the issues as it pertains to Eldorado Park in particular. But this is not the Eldos issue. Neither is it a Rega Park or a Eden Park or a Westbury issue. It is a national issue wherever you see our people. We are clustered into flats. We don't have yards where our children can play. Where do you find the most flats? The most flats you'll find in the colored areas, where you'll get Hanover Park, Menenberg, Rega Park, Eldorado Park. That's where you find the most flats. And that thing of us not having space is a huge problem. In the urban setting, in the cosmopolitan that Gauteng is, it is difficult to get space. There's always high-rise buildings. But if you go and look, where's the most high-rise buildings? It is in our areas. And I think that is one thing that government needs to look into. When it comes to allocation of houses, there is housing lists that all municipalities must have, that they do have. The manipulation of those housing lists is where our problem lies. So the issue of corruption in even allocating homes, that is where our problem lies. But you cannot expect a person, just by the basis of the color of their skin, to demand a house in Eden Park if they have not applied for a house. You get what I'm saying? And the challenge that we've got, I've been on the portfolio of small business development. Every year government gives money out. Now I raise a question. I say, look here, show me who you've given houses, or not houses. Show me who you've given money. Show me who you've given equipment. Show me who you've given resources to. And then show me the demographics of that. And you'll be shocked to see that our people don't appear on those demographics. And I say, even the 10%, you cannot say that not, they say no, they have not applied. Then I go out and say, Larry, get on your show. Tell your people, those that have applied, to give me reference numbers of when they have applied, what is their reference numbers. Let's follow up. When you ask that question, you will get very few people.
Yeah, but here's the thing though. I agree with you that there is a lack of activity or proactivism from our people. But because they have been, the nature of what politics has been, and our government has perceived us as being adverse. We had an adverse, response from government. So when you mention and we look at the thing that we raised in the beginning, like from a political perspective now with employment, how can we bring, there's 1,000 jobs in Eden Park, and there's 10,000 people that are unemployed in Eden Park. How can 900 or 950 of those people not be from Eden Park when we have an employment issue in Eden Park? Why will we go to the Western Cape to employ people in Gauteng when Gauteng people are unemployed? So those are the issues that regardless of being South African, the people that are immediately affected by that issue or that can be employed are in Eden Park. So that's the first issue. And why I'm mentioning that is it's a legislative issue because the law says that. Now, the SAPS can't do their own thing. They must follow the law. The law says you must employ 80% black African. Now, government, this very same government, and the ANC government imposes racial laws because the very same Employment Equity Act is based on race. The very law that we're saying this was, but it's perpetuated by the very same party that was put into power that was supposed to bring transformation. Now, when we talk about transformation, what kind of transformation are we talking about? Because race is still an issue. We are still being sidelined. The issue still persists as it is. So what I'm trying to understand is, when I talk about does an MP have power when it comes to the National Assembly, is there are people that are there in power. Brown people that are there. How are those brown people? Like you said, they are alone and maybe the one voice is not enough. But there's something like a private members bill is what I've learned. People can put forward a private members bill and say, right, let's discuss this issue. How just is this issue? Are our people putting forward private members bills? I've never heard really. I've heard where some people mention certain things, but the issue is we as a people, as a community are facing things. And what is being changed from a legislative perspective when we have that power, And when we talk about budgets, our communities like Eden Park, Regen Park, Wentworth, whatever, are they getting enough funding to be able to manage that, your Eden Parks or whatever the case is, from a service delivery now? You understand?
Larry, firstly, I want to say that when you are mentioning 80% and that the Employment Equity Act says that, I'm not with you on that, because as far as I know the Act, there's no percentages that is specifically for African blacks that excludes colored people. There's no such. I was trying to just check on my phone if I can quickly draw the Act for you. The point that I want to make is, but government cannot budget for colored people, black people, white people, but government cannot budget like that. It is impossible. If we are saying that we are one nation, I am so grateful that we've got a government of national unity where there need to be collective responsibility taken by everyone. However, if we as a people don't get together and unite and come to a place where we have demands and where we go and elect our leaders and make our voice heard, we are going to remain, soos hulle sê, op die agterspeen van die koei, which means we'll be the last to drink. It cannot continue, it cannot perpetuate. So if there's one thing that I am grateful for, it is the consciousness that has returned to the brown child to understand that you need to be registered to vote. And on voting day is not a drinking day, it's a day that you must first go and vote. And that when you vote, you must know who you're voting for and why you are voting for them. But the fourth thing that they are not doing, we are not holding people accountable who we have voted for. You will rather go and say, the ANC government this and the ANC government that, but you have voted for the PA. You want to say the PA this and the PA that, but you voted for the DA. You want to see the DA this and the DA that. You get what I'm trying to say. So you need to take responsibility to say that the person that I have voted for, I am going to keep this person accountable. When things in my community goes wrong, I must, whether I'm an ANC or not, I must go to my PA councillor and say, councillor, this is not happening right. This is not happening right. How do we work together with you? Because you must remember, when elections are gone, whoever has been elected, we must work with that person in order to see change in our communities.
But do you find there's a lack of informational and understanding amongst the community that they don't know what to do, how to do it? Or do you think it's just laziness? And then I guess part B would be also, how do we start working together? Because I sense, especially in the brown community, people don't like working together. They'll rather break each other down.
I agree. My late dad said to me that every colored person have got a PhD. And I said, how so, Dad? And he says, pull him down, pull her down. We are graduates in that. We've got doctorates in doing that to one another. We don't have the sense of, let us club together to work towards one thing. I think the next show that you should call me to is, how do we access opportunities? How do we direct our people towards where the cheese is? How do we direct our people to what empowerment exists within the framework of government, and what can we do to ensure that they get what they deserve?
Just in closing, maybe I think we
because I know you also need to leave. Yeah,
is maybe to speak on some. I think that is very important because empowerment is one of the biggest issues we have, And if people know where to go, how to go, you was must know binnenkant.
Yeah.
You weet waar, and you worked, you were set on the small business
Yeah.
development, right?
Yes.
Maybe you can just share with the viewers a bit on, you know, where to go, how to do it briefly.
We're going to
And
need
then
a show
we
for
will
that.
do a show.
But I think we should, let me connect you.
I don't know how long it's going to take for me to get you back here.
No, let me connect you with a brown man that has got a senior position, that is able to direct us, direct our people straight to where to go, exactly what to do, maybe do run a workshop here at your church or
Let's do
something
it.
like that,
Let's do it
and get
next
our
week.
people to come. I like that. I like
No,
that.
let's do it next week.
So-
Next week, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock.
I will leave his details with you,
Please.
and I'll also call him directly to let him know that I would like him to come and show our people, not just tell our people, show our people how this thing
Now
can
I'm
be done.
serious about next week. If he's available for next week, let's jump on it. Let's get it done. Because I've said it many a times, and I have 1,000 names on my phone of very well connected people. But then we never get to the point where we execute on it. You know. So,
I
so,
commit to pursue him right now after
Yeah.
this interview, to pursue him. I'm going to leave his number before I leave, and I'm going to make sure that I be here next week Tuesday to if he's available next week Tuesday. But whenever he's available, I'm going to also come, because from the part of being a legislator, I know exactly what we need to do.
Look, I will say I like your thinking. I like that you are progressive, you are solution orientated, even in what you are mentioning, and I think that is important, right? Because that's the only way we can bridge the gap from where we are to where we want to be.
Yeah.
So in what we've spoken, I know you have to leave.
Yeah.
Maybe just to give a closing remark on what we've spoken, from the church to politics to business and the way forward.
Look, thank you again for having me on the show. I think this is a conversation that needs much more time and much more attention, and I would like to commit to say, look, I'm available to have a follow-up on this. I've been wanting to come here for a long time, and I've been wanting to come when it's not election time, because when you have election time, you have to push a
Like this
certain
an agenda,
narrative,
yeah.
but now I can just speak for, this is what it is, and this is where we want to go. So there is space for the church to be a voice, to empower and equip our people. And the church need to take that space. It's not going to be given. The church is going to have to be serious about taking that space. And they can only take that space once we unite as the body of Christ and be clear what we want to do. Number two, when it comes to government needs to be held accountable. It is important that you understand that no law can be passed without you. And if we are looking at South Africa, it's a majority Christian country. So the fact that there are laws, and you are saying that, but this law, I don't agree with it, where was I? And why was I not pursued? It's like the thingy that you did at the National Dialogue. It's important to make your voice heard. And if you don't do it, you cannot expect someone else to come. I looked at you that day and said, die man, hy haal nou sy regte brein man maniere uit. But that's good. That's what we need. And
If
thank you
don't
for
do
being a
that, then I was
voice.
gonna pay you
If you don't do that.
I was with him, we walked in and he's like, these people are not taking us serious. Wait, I'm going now.
And that's how it should be.
And then
Well
we walked
done.
down
You
there and
must
I was
take
like,
by
hello
force.
guys, we had conversations. You said yes, and now we're here. Now you're avoiding us.
Exactly.
What's happening?
That is the kind of that's the kind of attitude that we need to take. You need not to be embarrassed to stand your ground, because he who stands for nothing falls for anything.
Exactly.
Right. Thank you, gentlemen.
And thank you for coming through. Let's exchange details quickly before you run off. I know you're busy with something important. So yeah, thank you for coming through.
Thank you so much for
It's
having
an
me.
honor having you on the show.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Hein.
sir.
Keep
Thank
going.
you, guys. Thank you for
Thank you,
watching.
gentlemen. Thanks. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to drop your comments in the comment section. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe. See you guys on the next show. And we will have Hein back, most definitely. And we're going to get deeper into it. Listen, be serious about making sure that our people are empowered, employed, understanding where, as you said, the cheese is. And we're going to make sure it's done. I will take it upon myself to make the facility available. We have a 200-seater venue. With the screen and projectors and everything, get the right people into the room, we execute from there. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the next show.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Imagine if you have your vision as the car with the right team. Imagine how quick that vision will come into the footsteps. Something that was taking 5 years takes 3 months.
This morning is all about leadership and influence.